you. So I want to ask a question. So we've covered a little bit of the economy, but I think one of the top issues that we saw on the board was election integrity. Now, election integrity is a lot of things, but there's a local aspect to it, which Andy and her team are working on. What can we do at the federal level? Because I know in federal elections, we have certain laws that protect our elections. So what can we do at the federal level to better protect our elections based on all the nonsense that's gone on since you get to go first, Jim?
All right. That's a tough question, for sure, because a lot of the jurisdiction is local and state and elections. I think, and I've thrown this idea out before, we can look at the Federal Election Commission because they do have authorities. And again, over federal election, we're not talking state issues. But I think when there's prima facie evidence and suggestions of fraud, that the FEC, we can give them jurisdiction. Congress can do that, to go in and look at the situation. And if there is questions about the voting, and it would of course be bipartisan, as difficult as that would be, and have the FEC investigate, and then those votes cannot be counted until the FEC has determined that the election was fair and free and that there was no fraud. And again, that would be only in federal elections, and I believe we have the jurisdiction to do that. On the state level, what we need to do, and will continue to do, I know, is we go out and try to encourage people to be poll watchers, volunteer to help out in the local elections wherever they can, use the voice as we campaign to go out to spread the word, to get people to go out and vote. But I think I'm a little bit encouraged here in Virginia when I look at what just happened here. We had the trifecta here with the state offices. And there's really not a big history of voter fraud in Virginia. I think we've seen it in other parts of the country, and I won't get into details there because we can argue about that forever. But I think historically Virginia has probably been better, and the clean sweep here tells me that our elections are probably better than many, if not most, areas in the country. And we need to continue that and just keep an eye on that. And I'm confident that we'll do that this election cycle. Thank you.
So one follow-up on that. One of the things, I did research, and I don't have the laws in front of me, but there are federal laws on the books on what defines election fraud. My question, and as a follow-up, is one of the things that we've seen is these non-governmental organizations and nonprofits throwing money into Democrat precincts. Is there a way at a federal level we can stop that?
Yeah, I think what you're referring to is all the money that poured into these precincts, and it all went to the Democrat, everything to get out the people to vote. And I think the way to potentially address that is maybe legislatively we can look at limits on that type of funding from private sources, even to PACs, to what actually affects the voting of people, not necessarily the messaging. So I think, there's protected speech as messaging that has the highest level of protection under the Constitution, but these actual get out to vote efforts might be a different distinction under at least constitutional and legal parameters of what kind of restrictions that we can put on that. And I think that would be very important. I think publicity would be another important tool to maybe require more disclosure, because a lot of this was dark money. We're just all reading about it now, and it all happened and it was done. And so full disclosure and transparency, we hear it all the time, but we need to see the transparency. I know that's kind of a repetitive there, but it's very true. And I guess probably the last thing that we need to do is maybe look at making these in-kind contributions to candidates that are running in those districts. And I know it's difficult in these election years. We have limits, and that's why we're always, I don't say begging for money, but pleading for money, because there's such a small amount that people can give. And I've heard from people much smarter and wiser than me that that's how the incumbents have designed it. So in these election years, you can't raise a lot of money. I try not to be that cynical, but I tend to believe that one for sure. So that's what we really need to do, is maybe make that in-kind for candidates that are in those districts, and that would put a hammer on how much they could spend in there, because it's just not right to use that money, and it's dark money. We all know that. So thank you.